let me give you a little synopsis of what we'll be talking about today. What you see on your screen is what we'll be discussing, but I want to give you a little bit of background on me. My name is Bob Escara. I am a CPA. I live in California. I've been a CPA for 26 years. I've been a Sedona user for 17 of those years. So I ran 2 different alarm companies using Sedona software. So I've been doing it for quite some time, closed a lot of books with Sedona. I'm really excited about this new add-on package that we have here called Vivid CPM. Extremely dynamic piece of software that ties into Excel. That's going to allow you to analyze your statements a lot faster than normal. I know there's a lot of rigmarole, especially any of you users who have used Sedona for some time. It's a rigmarole to get to your financials, to make them presentable. Even though Sedona has some pretty substantial and standard GAAP financials, is still getting them out to a presentation that's worthy. It takes a little bit of doing. So I'm a huge fan of accurate, complete, and most of all, quick financials. So identifying processes and procedures to help those along the way, extremely important. So I would say month-end task lists are an important part of it, but also in-month task lists that can help ease your pain. So we're going to be talking about standard financials, as you see there in the first item. We're going to be talking how you may currently prepare your financials using Sedona, how I did back in the day, and more recently, what Vivid can provide for you and how it could ease your pain, or for that matter, increase your pleasure. Depends on how you want to look at it. We're going to talk about why you should consider using Vivid if you're not, because it is extremely dynamic piece of software. Again, it ties into Excel. And I know most accountants are very familiar with Excel and how that works. So extremely dynamic that way. We're going to talk about how it all comes together. We're actually going to show you how to produce rows and columns within Vivid, show you how to produce financials at a very 50,000 foot view, but it will give you a good idea of how it works. And then we're going to talk about the features that Vivid CPM has, from the drill down features to variance analysis tools that are really out of this world. And then we'll give you a quick demo. So this webinar is going to take off where the last one left off. And I don't know if some of you who attended the last webinar on GL structure are on the call, but we talked about how branches and categories work within Sedona and how you can do reporting from those branches and categories. So that's one of the dynamic pieces of SedonaOffice, along with a lot of its key features, from service billing and RMR tracking and deferred revenue, that are very dynamic inside of Sedona. So talking about the financial side and what needs to happen, let's start with that standard financials that are inside of SedonaOffice. So you all recognize this list of financials that are inside of SedonaOffice right now. So on a month-end basis, you would be looking at a balance sheet, your comparison balance sheet, comparing trends. You're going to hear this variance analysis from me throughout this entire webinar, because I think that's important, looking at trends, understanding what your business throws off normally, and getting intimate with those pieces and parts of your particular business. So a lot of times I found myself exporting these to Excel and doing the analysis in Excel in order to look for variances. There are times when I would produce these reports like this comparison income statement and attempt to ascertain or look for various variances within various accounts. So let me show you what I mean by that. You guys are all familiar with this list of financials, I'm sure, because you guys have all used these. Now these are available inside of Vivid in a much more dynamic fashion. So what I'm going to show you right now is what that process would look like, and hopefully I can transition here easy enough. And right now you should be seeing your SedonaOffice. I'm in SedonaOffice. I'm in the Report Manager window here, and I'm looking at those income statements and balance sheets that I just mentioned. So what you'd have to do with inside of Sedona, if you didn't have Vivid, is you'd produce, and this is what I did, I produced a comparative income statement. I'd be looking at a 4-month look back, and it looks like you guys can't see this on my screen. Which is a shame. Hold on a second. So I'm assuming you can see this comparison income statement. And I'm going to look for notes from my organizer to see if that's actually the case. Okay. So let's see if we can do it this way then. I've got a comparative income statement here. Do we see that, Sam? Can you come online and let me know if you're actually seeing that? Okay, so let me hope that you guys are seeing this comparison income statement. So this comparison income statement is what I would do on the visual side. I'd be looking for variances between accounts. I'd be either printing this out or exporting it out to Excel. I'd be looking at my trends from one period to the next. Again, within Sedona, most of you on the call know that you can look at various periods. You can look at year to dates, you can look at quarter to dates, all identified by what your selection criteria is. So that's a really easy thing to do. But again, the meaningful variances that we're looking for are between two different periods, or you might be looking at a budget that you've created. But again, looking for variances in order to analyze those variances and either reclassify or identify where they belong if they're in the wrong accounts. So I'm going to attempt here to go back now into Sedona and see if it's a little smoother than the last one. I think that actually happened. So what I would do, once I'd identify an issue, I'd have to go into Sedona, into the general ledger. I'd click on the accounts register, and then I'd have to go look for an account that I discovered had a issue. So say, for example, I discovered that my outside services had some anomalies in it. I'd go back and look at that particular period. I'm going to say this is October, and I'm going to go look in the month of October for that item. This is everything that I have to do to close that period. I'm going to hit my go button, and I'm going to look at all the transactions that happened in that outside services account. So I'd have to analyze this, look at what those differences are. I might have to export this out to Excel and understand what and why these numbers are here. Okay, so that's what you'd have to do currently inside of Sedona. Go into my account register, do exports, do some further analysis inside of Excel. So a very kludgy way to review your financials, but still, I did it for a lot of years. I got really good at it, developed some macros within certain accounts that I'd analyze and look at on a constant basis because I knew which accounts were causing me problems or which accounts I'd have to train my staff to reclassify on a going forward basis. So that's what you'd have to do inside of Sedona without Vivid. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint and continue with where we need to go. So what we looked at was we looked at that comparison income statement live. We looked at what you'd have to do to the account register to do that analysis and look for periods and study those variances. And now we're going to talk about Vivid and what Vivid can offer you. Vivid CPM is an add-on module. It ties into Excel, so it'll be an additional item in your ribbon bar. And to me, Vivid is the light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to make that process and month end, that analysis process that I've gone through for 10 plus years, and exporting the account register and all that much easier. Vivid CPM allows two things specifically. It allows you to present financials in any way, shape, or form that you'd like. So you can produce financials for, maybe you want to produce a portion of your financials for maybe just your sales manager. He doesn't need to see gross margins, or maybe he does. So you can produce a tab with financials designed specifically for him or your installation manager, or for that matter, any top executive that you want to see pieces and parts of financials. You'd be able to do that. So you can produce them in any way, shape, or form. So the presentation of the financials is pretty dynamic. You can't get that out of Sedona right now. And then you're looking at the analysis aspect, which I think is tremendous. You're going to see in a second how quickly you can review what you just saw me do in Sedona in a much quicker fashion. So let's move on and talk about some of the additional benefits you're going to get out of Vivid. And of course, the closing of financials. We talked earlier about producing quick financials, becoming what I like to call, and I talk to some customers about, becoming a player as opposed to an umpire. So I'm not making a call after it's been made. As an accountant, I want to be as much of a player as possible. So I'd like to make decisions, help management or key management personnel make decisions based on the information that I'm providing. So this is going to allow you to produce financials in a much quicker fashion. It's going to allow you to analyze variances that we'll go into in a little more detail in a few minutes. But again, the better decision-making process that you see there. It will eliminate some of the unnecessary work. I say unnecessary, but it is necessary to produce the analysis, but you won't need to export it, shoot it out to Excel. And if any of you guys are familiar with the way you export something to Excel and how kludgy that can be, I know I lived with it for a lot of years, so it can be difficult. With Vivid, it makes it much cleaner. We will talk about that in a second too. So there's the umpire and player analogy that I gave you. The idea is to become a player as opposed to an umpire. So some of the processes that you might include, we talked earlier about the in-month lists of stuff that you'd want to get done during the month as opposed to waiting for the end of the month. And I think there's some key pieces there that you could put in place now to help speed the process up at month end. Now, Vivid will definitely increase your ability to produce financials. There's no doubt about that. But putting some of these in-month processes in place, like potentially reconciling your bank statement on more than just a monthly basis, maybe doing it twice a month. Spot checking inventory, high value items, high moving items, downloading and reconciling credit card transactions, some of that stuff that you can do to help increase this. I presented this question to everybody the last time we were on this seminar, is how long does it take your team to produce financial statements at month end? Now, I got to the question of, okay, so how do we increase this? Okay, month end checklist would do it. Assigning those items to particular team members on your accounting team, a delegation of duties, obvious. I don't need to say that to anybody on the call because I'm sure you understand. But some of these in-month processes, like reviewing job cost reports, reviewing closed jobs, looking at those P&Ls on jobs, looking for accuracy and completeness. Some of these processes you can put in place in month so that month end, when I'm reviewing those processes, I might be looking at a 2-month time frame to review data as opposed to a full 30 days. And we all know as accounting people that we tend to stick our nose in a lot of different areas within the organization. And if I went into a installation manager to ask them about a job that was closed on the 2nd of the month before, we're not going to remember. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do as an accounting person to help address those things as they occur. So constantly looking at these things on a daily basis, along with all your other duties, because most accounting people wear multiple hats. But also keeping a close eye on various accounts, especially the key ones inside of Sedona. So your customer deposits account, your PPV account, your open receipts, and your deferred income. So all of these on a more routine basis, looking at these things in month as opposed to end of month will help increase ability to produce financials. So looking at what it would normally take in companies. Now, I started with a company that was producing financials within 17 to 20 days. By the time I was done there with processes in place, we were producing financials in less than 4 days. So it is possible to increase. You'll have to set up some processes like we just talked about, but it is possible with some in-month processes because that will help in the end. And with the idea at the accounting team to help your team move the needle, the accounting team move the needle. So you can become a player within your organization, even though I say I'm a mere accountant, but I say the accountants are, of course I'm an accountant, so I say the accountants are the true players. That's another story. So really, it's how do you close your book sooner? It's processes. It's those in-month processes that we just talked about. And then here is the month-end checklist. So what time are we at now? We got 19. Okay, we got plenty of time. So here's a month-end checklist that I kind of showed you guys on our last webinar. And this is a 64-point checklist that I have here. I've obviously hid 4 through 56. I gave you the first 3. The first 3 being obvious. I'm reconciling bank statements and reconciling cash, verifying that my deposits, my undeposited funds, are actually deposited into the bank. Obvious. And then here is my review of my income statements done in Sedona, or done using what you see in the middle and highlighted in gray, using the vivid drill down, drill compare, drill across, analyze, and drill all. We're going to get into those in a little bit more detail. But I did want you to see what these processes would look like. And you see there on the very far right and who you're assigned these to. So this could be assigned to a lead. It could be assigned to a lead that delegates, but it could be assigned various accounts. There may be some high transaction accounts that will be analyzed. And some of the very high-end managerial reports that I think you should be looking at on a monthly basis. Now, this is a very tiny, tiny list of some of the stuff that you should be looking at on a routine basis. So your revenue per employee, your gross attrition, you've read those as you've heard me talk, I'm sure. So these are all key things. That my favorite is the tech hours, which we call FaceTime. So anytime your technician is in front of a customer, he's making me money. So I always had that number for my technicians. We would shoot and we'd incentivize to have more FaceTime. And when you have technicians are getting incentivized because they have more FaceTime, they're going to push their coordinators to get them in front of customers a lot sooner. So it kind of speeds the process up. When you have a little something in, and it was simply gift cards and maybe even a $10 gift card to Starbucks, you'd be surprised how much activity you can get out of that $10. So pretty dynamic. So this month-end checklist, highly useful. If you have one, I'm sure you do. It's a living document. So you're constantly putting stuff in and out of here, active accounts, who you're assigning those to. And the in-month checklist could be the same way. So you're assigning these in-month check responsibilities to certain key personnel. And if you're a one-man show, it's a reminder for you on what you need to do. So again, the variance analysis is really what we're going to be looking for here. We're going to be looking at those key factors. So, I mean, that's pretty clear on that, how that runs out. And now we're going to go back to CPM and talk about really quickly some of the key features, and then we're going to get into it before it gets too late here. So dynamic reporting, we said that you can do it in any way, shape, or form that you wanted. You can create those, and I'm going to show you how to do that. These financials run on control panels. So you'll be identifying a control panel by tab if you'd like, and I'll show you what that means. Control panels identify branches and categories and groupings of GL accounts, which I'll show you in a minute. And then the deep down features, the analysis stuff, the drill down, which you on the lower end package that you get out of something like QuickBooks. Pretty dynamic. I'm really excited that this is a part of SedonaOffice now. Some of the budget and forecast is part of the advanced version of Vivid CPM, and then the simple report design, and I'll show you how simple that is in a second or two. Here is how you'd log into Vivid, and here's what it actually looks like on your toolbar. So you see that down below underneath where it says toolbar, aka ribbon. This is only the portion of Vivid. So you obviously recognize the home, the insert, the page layout, and formulas inside of Excel, because this truly is Excel. This is an add-on to Excel, and you would have your own login through Vivid Reports. So as you see on the top, you'd be logging into Vivid CPM through Excel. You'd be logging in right here. So this is where the Vivid Reports would exist in your toolbar in Excel. Here's what the control panel looks like, and we're going to go into this in detail in a few minutes. We're at 11:23, so we got some decent time here. All the panel you see to your left is your control panel all closed up. So what that addresses on the top is we're looking at branches. You're going to be looking at the period in time that you're looking at. And you're looking at the year you're looking at there as well, and then the database that you're looking at. So you can have multiple databases, and I'm talking about here on the left, on the closed, where it says control panel closed. Here is the one in the center, which is account filter with the branches opened up. So you see the branches, head office, manufacturing, all regions, north, south. You can break those out by branch. And then the far right is going to show you the date or period time frame broken out. So you see that months of January and then year-to-date January. I'm going to show you that in detail in a second. Here is what that looks like on a report that has not been populated yet. So this is, again, Excel. You're going to be referring to the control panel on the top right corner that you see there. It's going to be looking at branch identification, period you're looking at, and year you're looking at. So you'd simply change that with whatever period you're looking at. You'd hit the refresh button. It will go out to Sedona on the back end and bring down that information. So pretty dynamic. You can run it at any point in time that you're looking at. Here is what that report looks like populated. So we're looking at February. This is obviously a screenshot. We're going to go into this in detail in a second, but I just wanted to give you a quick view of what it actually looks like. You'll be drilling down on that particular item, and here's what that looks like. So here's the report fully populated. Here's the drill down on that particular item. So I simply clicked on that button, hit the drill down button, and this automatically opens up. It'll give me the balance. It can show me by branch here, because I'm saying all segments. And then it's going to give me all the transactions that make that up. So pretty dynamic. Everything you see right here, you saw me do when I reviewed the account register inside of Sedona. So when you're looking at the account register inside of Sedona, you're getting that instantaneously here. So extremely powerful way to look at information very quickly. And there is some export capability here too. So if you had to do some analysis here, you can export it. So pretty dynamic. Here's one of my absolute favorites, because you're looking at a drill across on that particular account. So now I'm looking at the trends related to this account based on how much information you have in your books. In this case, we're looking at 2 different years, 15 and 16, and we're looking at a trend over time. Now I can overlap these where I can have 15 and 16 and look at those months and how they compare. Actually, that's what this one is doing. Or I can look at 15 through 16 and look at the trend over time. So I mean, instantaneously, you can click on this and it'll show it for whatever account you're looking at. This is one of my favorites. I always looked at trends for the variance analysis reasons and purposes, getting acutely familiar with your financial information, which I'm sure everybody on this call already is. So you know the tricks, so you know the stuff that rolls through your financials. If you have an accounting person on staff and they make errors that you're already acutely aware of, it's the devil you know sort of thing. So I'm constantly looking at stuff that might change my financials. So now what we're going to do, and if this allows me to quickly, is I'm going to go over to Vivid so you can actually see what that looks like. Now, I'm hoping you're able to see what I have in front of you now. You see the demo data in the top right corner. So what you see here is multiple branches listed side by side. This is the trial balance that I created, and you identify the accounts. I'm going to go into detail on this in a second, but this opens up the accounts and tells you what account numbers are in this. I just created this trial balance just so you guys can see what it looks like. Let me demonstrate the drill down feature really quickly. I'm going to highlight the account and I'm going to look at the drill down. I can instantly look at who created that, where it belongs. I want to look at it by branch. So branch B is the only one that has cash on hand. This just gives you the idea of how that would work out. So most of you know on the phone that you don't need categories within balance sheet accounts. You do need categories inside your installation accounts or your P&L accounts. So this is the branch. You can't get this out of Sedona. You can't get a side-by-side branch analysis like this. You just can't get it. Here's how the groupings work. We talked about that I would show you quickly how you can add an account to a financial that you're creating. So here's my cash account right here. This is a grouping of all cash. Here's my accounts receivable number. Now here I grouped all these accounts together to get to this number. So this number right here is a grouping of all of these numbers. So when I look at these three features right here, and this is my filter, this is how I build these filters. I'm looking at my group categories, my groupings, and I'm gonna look at my accounts receivable grouping, and it's going to include those three accounts. I'm gonna move this over to the left. So this account grouping for accounts receivable in my demo accounts grouping includes account number 1020, 1021, 1025. And if you see those, that's exactly what these are. So I can list them separately or I can group them. That's why when we talk about the general ledger and in your chart of accounts and how you want the detail provided in your chart of accounts, if you have that detail broken out in your chart of accounts, we can group it. But if you group it in your chart of accounts, we can't expand it unless you do the additional analysis and additional rigmarole to move it out using Excel. So that's how these pieces come together. Vivid will come with your accounts identified. This is your full chart of accounts in that demo branch. Here's the branches identified in here. So this would come with the system, nothing you need to create. You just be creating the pieces and parts or the groupings within account numbers. So you have all your categories listed here within the demo categories, and we'll get into some of this in a second here. Here is a income statement by branch. So this is the month of October, and we talked about that control panel too. Let me show you how that works. So here is my control panel, and here I'm only looking at a period. So I'm not actually, this is all branches, and I can actually add the single only branch, but I'm going to show you that in another report I produced over here. So I'm going to change this, and it'd be as simply as changing this. This is the time frame that I'm looking at. I am looking at October right now, and I'm simply going to hit October, and I can adjust it. I can make it a year-to-date number if I wanted to as well. So that's how the control panel works. The control panel gets defined by identifying your rows and columns. Here's my control panel and how I can update it. But that is a little more nitty-gritty than we need to get to today. What I did want to show you is how dynamic it can possibly be. Here is my by branches, P&L by branches. This is the month of October with all branches identified. This is $2.3 million. And I'm going to show you that same number by category. So now I'm looking at October, that $2.3 million. Now I'm looking at that by category. So I can click on this number. I can do a drill down on this number. And I know that this number is installation commercial fire. Now I want to see which branches produced it. So I can look at the branches that produce that number. So extremely dynamic. First, I'm looking at the branch P&L, and then I'm looking at all branches broken out by category. So again, the drill down, I can drill down on any one of these things. I can see those transactions. I can export this to Excel if I wanted to, and it's as quick as that. I mean, I just exported it out to Excel. Look at how quickly that happened. And in a format where I don't have to delete page breaks or anything like that, if any of you guys are familiar with Sedona, because I was, and I'm exporting something out to Excel, and I'm constantly dealing with page breaks. Extremely frustrating. I'm not sure if anybody else on the call gets frustrated with that as well, but it's a difficult process to deal with. Learned how to deal with it though. Okay, so let's go back to our, see if this works. We're going to go there in a second. Where was I? I was here. Okay, so here is your branch P&L. Now I mentioned those other ones where you can actually run a particular or whatever it is that you so chose to add, and maybe you want to give sales only information to your sales manager, so he can look at what your various GL accounts are doing, or he can just look at what this trend would be. I can add or export that information. This was an export of that information here. It does not export the diagram. You'd have to produce that on your own, but you just use that information and you can pull it off what you produced. So I can simply just give him this. So, and this is something just quick and easy to produce for your, not so much the chart, but the whole information. So this is a quick look back. This is current month, and I'm looking back at these months on a routine basis. So I can change this to, not maybe I don't want it to October. I'm going to go to my control panel. I'm going to say, you know what, I want to make this November instead. It's going to look back at these periods. It's going to go to SedonaOffice. It's going to go pull in this numbers. It's going to pull in November, and it's going to look back at the previous periods through May. So extremely dynamic. Again, I can click on this. I can drill across and look at those trends. So this is one of my favorite ones because I'm always looking at trends and having to maintain these balances outside of Sedona so that I can get these trends. Now this is stacked on top of each other, and I mentioned that if you wanted to have this in one continuous string, or I have it on one continuous string. So starting in 2015, I can look at my ebbs and flows, understand where I am in that ebb or flow in this case, because it is on its way up. So extremely dynamic to have this presentation inside your variance. I mean, what we're doing right now is we're essentially analyzing financials in order to produce a quicker result at the end. So this is the analysis portion of this thing. And let me get into this in a little more detail here. So here's my 3-month look back that you'd get out of Sedona. So right now in that comparison income statement that I showed you, you had your current month, which in this case I'm using October, and it did a 3-month look back. This is that same report doing a 3-month look back, only now it's perfectly formatted because I set it up that way. And I can look at any particular account I want to by drilling down into it. I could look at it by branch, or I could just simply look at it by account number, click on it, and it's going to give me all the transactions that make it up. So some of you who aren't using Vivid right now, I mean, you have to be smiling because this is a really dynamic piece of software, and what it can do is save you loads of time on the analysis side. So I don't have to go for my financials that I exported or my financial that I printed, that I visually identified variances, go back into the account register to understand what it was, potentially make journal entries related to that information, and then paste it into Sedona. I mean, so this right here gives me a bird's eye view instantaneously of what I need to see. So extremely dynamic in that regard. As I'm clicking on accounts, it could do an automatic lookup. So I'm going to select this if it wants to see me. So it's automatically going to look at this, and I'm going to be keying on accounts here. Let me click on this because it's not. Hold on one second here. There's my auto display. I need it to auto display. So I can click on transactions here. Oh, that should auto display. But it will auto display. So I can actually click on this, identify the number. For some reason, it's not allowing me to auto display here right now. But it'll automatically pop up. So I continue to look at accounts. If I was looking at, maybe I was just looking at all the revenue, and I just want to verify what those customers are. If I just wanted to look at them and see what they are, because I want to feel comfortable. It's this whole truth and transparency thing. So those two words work in tandem to me. So if you have truth without transparency, to me, that could almost be a lie. I need to see the numbers that are being produced in order to be able to hang my hat on that number. And you can reverse that. So if I have transparency without truth, I mean, that's a falsehood to me. I need them both. And if I can verify them instantaneously by clicking on an item, understanding what produced that item, I'm in a much better position. At month end, I might be a happier guy if I set my in-month procedures in place. I am looking now, I can look at information dynamically through financial that I produced. So again, the two key features in Vivid is the ability to analyze quickly and then present in any way, shape, or form that you chose. So I can have financials that are more my analysis financials. So I can have my 3-month look back, but I'm not giving that to the bank. I might give it to an executive, but I'm going to give them, the least amount of information I can get away with. So it might be groupings. It won't be detail. I don't need them to do the analysis. I need to do that analysis. So I can group accounts in that way. So you also have the ability here, and this is another one of my favorite features here, is this analyze right here. So I can analyze two accounts side by side. So I am in H. Let me go up here for a second to show you what I mean here. So I am in October, and I'm going to analyze October and September instantaneously. Before, I had to do that with the visual or export it to Excel and run my calculations. Now I've produced the financial that I have, and now I want to do an analysis on it. I'm going to go analyze, and I'm going to say, okay, I want you to compare column G to column H. And I want to look for a dollar amount that's over, I don't know, depending on your materiality and what you look for routinely. It just might not be as large as $10,000, but I know these are large numbers. This is a test database, so I'm going to do it anyway. So now I'm looking at these numbers. I know there might be some variations in sales. I'm going to go down to my expense accounts real quick to show you some easy items to look at, like this right here. Look at this. This computer expense. So now this is an account that I will be reviewing on a monthly basis. And I'm going to say, okay, so I've got computer expense here, as you can see on the drill down. And you would be using this in multiple screens. So I have this on another screen. I'd have this analysis on this screen. I'd be looking at my computer expense and thinking, wait a second, this thing increased by 10 grand. What do I have to do? Is there something in there that I need to capitalize? So again, looking for anomalies. This is how you do it in a quick fashion. Now, I let the system tell me, here's your variances. Here's the distinct variances that you're looking for, rather than accidentally missing something because I didn't see it. I can look at all these right down the line. I can say, okay, you know what? I really need to look at this account. I'm going to do a drill down on that number because I need to see what it is. Okay, so I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do this by all segments, and I'm going to say, I need to see what these are. If I actually used SedonaOffice to its fullest extent, I would have Sedona docs. If I have an item for that needs to be capitalized, I would make sure that my accounting staff knows that this is a capitalizable item. I need you to scan this into the system and attach it to that invoice. And if you did that, you'd be able to come into something that's significant. You'd be able to click on it, and then you'd be able to click on the image that created it. So I'd click on this, and it immediately pop up that invoice, so I'll know exactly what that is. So I can go down to the image level if those amounts are scanned in. And maybe anything significant, you would make sure your staff scans in. So I'm not out there in the vendor files trying to find, you know, an invoice that I can't find when I can attach it directly to an invoice item. So pretty dynamic in that way. Again, being able to look at information in a quick fashion. You can do a drill all here, which is going to look at all the accounts side by side in whatever account I am looking at. So you see these numbers below, all agree to the numbers that you see below me. I can click on any one particular amount, and I can look at that and what that transaction is. So extremely dynamic. If you guys aren't completely and totally excited about what Vivid can do for you and help you, I'd have to check my pulse here, because I get excited by looking at this information because it's right here, it's right in front of me. If my goal is to produce financials that are accurate, that are complete, and are quick, here's a tool. It's a very dynamic tool. I can look at stuff across the board, to drill across, drill all, drill compare. Very powerful way to look at your accounting information rather than having to go into Sedona, go to the account register, and do the export slide just like I just talked about. I did it for a lot of years. It's possible. I used Excel Financial for a lot of years too. So there's different ways, and I'm sure people on the phone here have used maybe even Crystal, because I used Crystal at one point back in 2002 and 3. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. I think Vivid makes it real easy. It's a really dynamic piece of software to get information out quick and easy. So if there's, and again, I'm exporting information to the person assigned to handle this account. So at year end, at month end, well, year end, first of all, I'm going to have all my fixed assets numbers, you know, identified with images of the invoices that created them. So, I mean, a lot of really cool features inside of Vivid, especially these 5, and that's really what I wanted to get across. Your top 5 picks here. Your drill down, your drill compare, your drill all, but actually drilling down into the information. Now, I'm sure a question that came across your mind as you're keying this, well, can I put a journal entry in through here, or can I move it from one account to the next? You will still need to do that inside Sedona. Vivid reports on GL. You won't get job information out of here, but this is strictly GL. That's why when I suggest on the GL side and GL account coding that you create the detail that you want. So you have an installation revenue field. You could even go down to the type of job that you're doing, but you also have costs related to that type of job or that type of category. I trust that makes sense. I know when I was running the two companies that I ran, we came with a 5-point feel good number that we'd identify every month, and it would be if cash increased, you get a point. So this is a 5-point scale. The idea is to get 5 points. So if your cash increased, you get a point. If accounts receivable increased, you'd get a point. So this is saying, okay, I'm collecting cash. That means our customers are happy because they're paying us. If my accounts receivable is up, that means my guys are producing the revenue. That means they're out there working and they're busting their butts. That means my accounts receivable is up because I can only bill if the work gets done. I'm looking at accounts payable being down. So that means I'm utilizing my cash the way I should. I'm not taking on additional debt. So I'm looking at 3 points so far. Cash is up, AR is up, AP is down. And then I look at my inventory. Am I ordering the way I should? Just in time type inventory. Do I have inventory on the shelf that's collecting dust? Hopefully not. So if my inventory is down, I get another point. So now I'm at 4 points, and then I made money. So net income. So you look at those 5 points. Cash is up, AR is up, inventory is down, AP is down, and I made money, net income. That's a 5-point scale you could look at really quickly to ascertain whether or not you're heading in the direction that you want to. So you get 5 points and you're making money. You got some happy shareholders or happy owners. So that is, I am at 11:46. I want to save a little bit of time for questions. So Sam, are you still there? I'd like to open up for some questions.
Yes, hello everyone. So I've been kind of taking questions as you've been going, but if anyone has anything that they would like to ask, please go ahead and just type it in the question box, which is in your dropdown, or go ahead and raise your hand under the attendees bar. Do we have any sort of questions or things we want to cover more in depth? And I'm going to give that a second, but in the event that we do not, if you come up with something later, please just shoot me an email at samc@perennialsoftware.com, and I'll be happy to answer that or pass it along to Bob. And then this webinar will be posted on Monday at the latest. And it looks like there are no questions, so I just want to thank everyone
for
joining us today.
Hold on 1 second. So if there's no questions, let me take a little bit more time to, if you guys have more time, you can obviously kick off if you need to. But here's my contact information. So I can do a personal Vivid demo for you as well if you didn't get enough out of this to understand what it can do for you. And I'd be ashamed if you didn't understand what the capabilities that Vivid had, that I did not demonstrate them in this webinar. So hopefully you got an understanding of what Vivid can do, the processes and the time that it can save you, as far as, you know, unnecessary processes or stuff that you have to currently do inside of Sedona that can happen very dynamically inside of Vivid. So here is my information. My direct line is there. If you want to send me an email, we can set up a personal time to go through the Vivid piece. I could do a demo for you. Obviously, no obligation. I just need you to understand its capabilities and see if it works for you. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for attending. I know you guys are busy, but I also know that this can save you some time and take some of that busyness away. And you spend more time with your kids or more time in other things. So I like Vivid. I think it can serve its purpose, and it can provide some additional guidance on your way to producing faster financials. And that's it for me, Sam.
Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.